Hi everybody, it's Alisamurray here with another Martini Talk, and I've got my good friend here visiting with me about some sustainability and some responsible global issues. I want to introduce you guys to him.
Hi, my name is Eberhard. I'm the CEO of Lucke Consulting Technology Services, and yeah, as you said, we're trying to work in the area of green projects, energy, sustainability, and just try to do our part to
So
move
we talked
the
a
work
lot
forward.
about that on the phone, and a lot of the clients that are in the client base feel the same way that we do about our responsibility to the earth. And you and I talked about there's so much that's wasted. There's just so much that's wasted. Like, what are your thoughts about? Do you know like the latest stats on what we're dealing with in terms of
It's
waste?
different in all different regions of the world. There's different levels of recycling that's already been applied, but in many countries, a lot of what's called municipal waste goes to a landfill because people don't do anything with it. They just throw it away, and people don't know anything to do with it but to put it in a big hole and put some soil over it and hope for the best. Especially in countries like islands where there's only limited space, it becomes a problem because at some point it fills up. Then you have to either design a new one or what we would prefer is think about how to prevent landfills from being filled up,
Or even
and
started?
and B, maybe even find methodologies to safely reclaim existing landfills
How do you
and
fix
reuse
it? Like, how do you fix it once it's there? How do you get rid of the toxicity of what's just sort of wasting away there? And is there a way to put something down on the soil to fix it?
No, I don't think you can do any of that. You can just reclaim it and reuse it, whatever is reusable or recyclable. I mean, that's the idea of the circular economy, is to not put it in the landfill
To begin
waste
with.
it to begin with, but to find ways to educate people, educate governments, educate the whole system how to implement good recycling systems.
What do you think we need? What do you think we need the most right now that could get us in the right direction?
I think technologies are there. It's not that we need to invent anything. I think everything is there. It's technically feasible. It can be done. It's more about the mindset. As I said on the phone earlier, I want to erase the word waste from the dictionary, basically. I would like to do that. People should look at things when they use them and not say this is something I now throw away, but this is something it's a resource. It can go back into the circle and can be reused or converted into something else, like energy, power, or a fuel, so that it doesn't end up in a landfill.
So, what are the things that you're working on? You've got a bunch of projects we were talking about. You're looking for sponsors and for people to help.
Well,
You know,
I look for funding, of course, like
Right.
everybody else.
Right,
I
right.
mean, if you want to start up, I went 100% self-employed in April. Great timing, COVID.
It's awesome
It's just,
timing.
I don't know.
You know what? It's awesome timing because it's the best time for everybody
Yeah.
to figure out what their mission is, what their thing is, their passion, and go
Right.
for it. Like, if there's no
Yeah.
other time than now, just do it. Blinders on and go. I mean, that's what I've done with this YouTube.
Yeah.
For years, I've been photographing babies and planning vacations and helping sell houses and writing columns, and now all of it's in one big swirl together,
Right.
and I'm making videos, and I get to control, not that I didn't before, but my own schedule. But yeah, I mean, now's a good time for you to like zone in and figure out what that is. But who are the people that's the thing, I need to help you find the people.
Well, yeah, it's the funding. So you need people with money that want to invest, and there's
There are
many
people.
out there.
Yeah.
So, but they also looking very carefully in what projects they choose to invest in, and then you have to get a right location, a right project, the right people to work with. You need to, depending on where you want to work, you have people that have the knowledge of the local specifics, how to deal
And
with
you're
the
here
culture.
with me in Houston.
Yes.
You're here with me in Houston, but where are some other places that you think in the world that we need to start, or that may be a good place to start working?
Oh, we're looking at the Caribbean because of the island and the restricted place. South America. I don't have a lot of ties into Asia, so that's for me that's a gray area
Kind of,
that
yeah.
I leave out. So because I'm from Germany, there's Europe, there's North America, Caribbean, South America, if you will.
Okay. Okay.
So it's still a big area to cover, but we don't want to spread too far
Thinly.
too thin, so we selected the first one that we actually want to do.
Will be in the United States or will be in the
It
Caribbean?
will be in the Caribbean.
Okay.
And it will be based on a plastic recycling project. And around that project, we want to build a complete waste recycling and conversion to power and fuels.
See, that's what's so cool. If when people realize that trash that they see as trash can be converted to energy,
Yeah.
why would you just throw that away? Like, it's just, when we were talking on the phone, it's like, it's just education. Like, people need to know the water bottle is not trash.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
The water
because
bottle is not trash.
certain countries where the water quality, tap water, is not that good,
Right.
they depend on the bottled water. So they use a lot of it,
Mhm.
and it ends up in the trash. It is preparing the right mindset with the people that use consumer goods, but
Mhm.
it's also for governments, cities, in order to provide good systems that the people can use.
It's easy.
If I have to collect plastic and paper and glass and then have to drive 15 miles to get rid of it,
It's too
people
hard.
will probably not do that.
Right. It's too hard.
But if there's an easy system, either I'm used to seeing it in Europe, they have different
Bins.
trash bins
Yeah.
where they separate right away. Okay, paper goes in here,
Even at the
glass goes
airport
in
in
here.
Houston.
Yeah,
When you go to the
you
airport
can-
in Houston,
you
you've
can do
got,
that too.
and in Mexico as well,
Mhm.
it's designated what you're supposed to put in each specific bin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it starts in the right direction.
You can do that, and then when it's pre-sorted, not just dumping it somewhere, but have a dedicated facility where the trash will end up and where it's checked again and sorted in more. When people make a mistake, stuff
Well,
ends
yeah,
up
yeah.
in the
You gotta
wrong
be
bin
able
as
to-
well. So
right.
you have to have some control mechanism.
Kind of
to
like
sort
Willy
it and
Wonka's
see.
squirrels. Remember the squirrels that
Yeah.
would like get all the bad, whatever it was. I remember Willy Wonka had those
That's a good
squirrels.
picture. Yeah, it's a good way of describing it. Yes, indeed.
Oh, I just love that you want to change the world. I do too. I just think there's so many things that each of us can do that'll make a difference. And it's so awful to see trash floating in the ocean.
Mm.
You know, like I see that and I just want to throw up because it's just so awful and what it's doing to the environment.
Yeah, and there's so many ways it can get there. I mean, it's really hard to control all of them, but you have to start at some point. And I think trash separation, recycling, and conversion of waste to power
Mhm.
fuels. I mean, everybody's talking about the decarbonization, getting rid of the fossil fuels. Okay, I'm not saying it's wrong, but A, it will take a while.
It will. It will.
You
We're
have to
dependent.
phase out. B, what are the alternatives? I mean, we can build millions and millions of these windmills. It's okay. They generate power, but they don't look nice, and they have their problems as well.
Mhm.
And once they are decommissioned, especially the blades
Mhm.
are really hard because they
What are you gonna do with them?
decompose. Yeah. So you have that
I
problem.
remember when I was a little girl, I always would spend the summers with my grandparents, my mother's mom and daddy in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And up in Boone, there was a big stir. I remember a stir that there was this big windmill that was going up somewhere in the Appalachian Mountains. It's probably been, well, I'm 50, so it's
Mhm.
probably been 30 years ago. I don't even know if the thing's still running. I don't even know if they ever got it erected and it's there and it was
Mhm.
actually a working windmill. But I remember a lot of conversation about that. And then, of course, we're out here on 521 and I see all the time with the railroad track right there,
Yeah.
great big huge blades,
Yeah,
great big
exactly
component
right.
parts
Mhm.
to what is essentially has to be a windmill
Mhm.
that come in and almost like the same caravans that happened during the rodeo with the guys that come down, you know, whenever they make their
Yeah.
way to the George R. Brown. But there's just got to be, every little thing matters. Like even if it's just you taking your plastic and making sure that it gets into the recycling bin today,
Mhm.
then some other corporation may say, you know what, we want to make this our mission and invest the money to be able to afford to make all these
Yeah.
different, what is essentially, I would have said, what is it called? It's not really a factory, but it's, you know, where you're going to sort all that and figure out where things go. And that provides a lot of work for other people too.
It is. It's not. It's not pretty work. I mean, we all
No,
know
but
trash is. Yeah, it smells and all, but it's work. It's honest work, and it helps, right?
Yeah.
And it needs to be done. And there's a lot of initiatives. So we're not preaching anything new. It's been-
Right.
people talk about it for a long time already, and there's a lot of small companies that weathered the storm and finally emerged and have projects going on, or are trying to improve the technology. We are not a technology company. We
No.
want to implement.
Right.
Right?
And your background,
I
you
want
told
to
me-
take technology
And use it.
and use it. That's my focus. I
Yeah.
don't want to invent anything new. That's not what I think my skill set is. But bringing the right people to the table and developing a project that will be feasible and viable, that can survive and actually not only solve a problem for a certain area, but also create revenue
And jobs.
and work, jobs, and
Jobs.
no.
You know, when we were on Isla, we travel. We've got the travel business, and when we were on Isla, we were there for about 10 days, and I was interviewing the chefs and shooting the food, and working on featuring the resort and all of that there. And Isla's little, it's across from Cancun. It's little, so you fly in, and then you get on a little boat, and you go over, and then you're on the island. And during the daytime, you didn't smell anything funky. But early one morning, one of the guys that was at the resort took me out to see if we could find the turtles, because it was turtle time for turtles to lay. And the whole island smelled awful. And he was on the board of some committee there in Isla and had written a bunch of columns about it. And they did not have a sustainable way of getting rid of their waste. And they're, just like you were talking about, they were on an island. And I don't know how they kept the stench away during the day when people were tourists were there for the beach. But if you got up at 5 a.m. and you were on the outskirts of the island, it was absolutely awful. It smelled like sewer and rotting bodies, and it was just terrible. It was just terrible. And there's got to be a way. I mean, that would be a really good place too. I may be able to hook you up to them and say, if there's a way to kind of connect you guys to each other, because he is as adamant about his island as you are about changing the world. And it takes people who have the heart in it. It's easy to say, oh yeah, but whenever you've got your own family there and it's your family home and you've been there your whole life and you're seeing it become destroyed, not because they don't want tourists there, they do. I mean, they need them there. That's their way of making a living. Most of what money that comes through there comes from people, mainly Americans, honestly. There was a few Germans there when we were there. I have a few German friends too, but mainly, it's tourists, and they're the ones leaving all this trash behind too. I mean, they're consuming way more trash, making way more trash behind them in their wake than normal families that would be living there on the island, because there's not that many people that are there. They're just there kind of as at the resorts, taking care of the people that are there that are providing them with the money. So it's crazy. Well, do you know of any places in Houston that are in your mind with the program? Do you have a top 5 list of maybe restaurants or any place that you know of that really you feel like has done a good job so far of kind of really working in the right direction?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't looked at it that way. I know that there's some of the bigger chains, grocery stores, started taking out plastic and paper and separating it, trying to put it back. I'm not sure if in this area, specifically around Houston, if there are any companies that take it
that are just
and
really
bring it back.
Yeah. I just was thinking after we talked on the phone, I was like, you know what? Maybe there's a place there. Maybe there's a few businesses that have it as their sort of normal.
Yeah.
That they're going to make that be a part of the front thinking of their employees when they're doing their lunches or whatever.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was companies I worked for in the past where when you went into the break room, it was provided for separation of the waste to some degree. It doesn't work though if at some point waste management comes and collects everything and puts it back in the same truck anyway. So that, as I said, the whole system has to be
changed
designed and
from the
provide
ground up.
for better separation and better
Now
chances
talk
of
to me about
reusing.
all your past history, because you've not just started doing this. Like, you're an engineer. Tell me about your, or tell them. I already know. Tell them like what you've been up to. I mean, like, for the past however many years that you've been.
So when I started my career, I started in a refinery in Germany. I just wanted to, it was something that I didn't learn in school. In school, I was focused on languages.
Mm-hmm.
I did economics. I was good at that. So languages, that, sports. Physics and chemistry was kind of like,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't really interested in that. So when the decision time came, what do you want to do when you go to university?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted a challenge, I picked something that I found interesting and that I hadn't looked into as much during my time at school,
Mm-hmm.
which was engineering. So combining math with the chemistry and the physics and all of that. So I picked something that was close by. I didn't want to, move far away, and
Mm-hmm.
so I picked something that school I could go to while still living with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and became. Here you would say it's a chemical engineering degree.
Okay.
It's in Germany. It's the first 2 years. The base courses are the same as mechanical engineering,
Okay.
and then you kind of specialize on
Mhm.
certain areas,
Mm-hmm.
which were all around process engineering, chemical engineering, and I could talk for hours. But for a job that I did during summer break, I worked security at the refinery. I got in contact with the people that run the pilot plant in the refinery, which got me in contact with the engineering department. And to make the long story short, after I finished my degree, they hired me into that department. So I started working there, and it was a bunch of people starting at the same time, and they all picked their process that they want, and I just picked the one that nobody wanted, which was delayed coking. It's a dirty one, right? You take all the heaviest stuff that comes from the distillation, the residue,
Okay.
and
The gunk.
you make it really hot and crack it into something lighter, more valuable. And the residue that stays is actually a solid. It's called petroleum coke.
Oh. What do you use it for?
Depends on the quality. Most of it, if it has high contents of impurities, let's say sulfur and metals, it's just burned. It's fuel coke.
Okay.
If it is more structured, has less of the impurities, it's used in anodes, like steel furnace.
Okay.
And then there's a specialty coke, which is going into batteries and
Okay.
things like that. So it has its applications,
Mhm.
but it's not a quite continuous process that you would normally see in a chemical plant.
Mm-hmm.
It had at that time still a lot of manual work. It's semi-cyclic batch process.
Well, you were there for how long?
I did that for 9 years,
Okay.
and then that time the company I worked for had a joint venture with PDVSA in Venezuela, and they started building their upgraders for the heavy oil they processed
Mm-hmm.
and sent to the coast for further processing. And I had the opportunity to go to one of the projects for 2 years.
That was
Yeah,
fun.
well, it was very interesting. It was
Venezuela?
different. I did the projects, I did operations, and here you came to a spot where it's just brown, red dirt,
Mm-hmm.
and after 2 years you leave and you have a running facility. So the construction was interesting, the commissioning startup. I learned a lot during that. Didn't go back to Germany after that.
Really?
Decided to leave the company and hooked up with some people that were consultants that
Mhm.
worked for the refinery, so I knew them. I was on the client side, they were the consultants, and they hired me into the consultancy. That was at that time my dream job. I wanted to be a consultant, and I wanted to be an expert in something, and that delayed coking needed experts at that time. So I did that for almost 5 years. It was very nice, traveled a lot, learned a lot. Then industry changed. Process consulting was not needed anymore. People were looking at software to tell them what to do. People were looking at more like business consulting, which was really not my cup of tea. So the only way to do similar things or continue doing what I'm doing while still expanding my horizon was to go into the engineering, procurement, construction, short EPC business. So I went in to do that. With that step into EPC, I was also promoted to a level where I started adding management tasks to my daily routine. And because at some point, shale happened, fracking happened, all the light oil came out, everybody was happy. Nobody was interested in delayed coking anymore because all the oil that was domestic, they didn't have to import the heavy oil anymore. It all shifted from a focus on heavy oil processing to, oh no, we need these condensate strippers and fractionators to deal with the light oil that we have, and they forgot about all the heavy stuff. So I started looking into that, and I started looking into alternative things like conversion of coal to liquid, gas to liquid. That's how that started. Plus I developed into management positions. Just made typical engineering career. You can go into sales, into management, or you get really nerdy and go to a lab and develop new technologies. Those are the options you basically have.
Kind of sounds like a surgeon. You can go into the lab and figure out how to cure cancer, or you can go hang out and deliver some babies. You could be on one end or you could be on the other.
Yeah, and there's people that engineers that based on their personality go into whatever it is. When I'm at home, I'm introvert.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not that. I can sell.
Right.
But I'm not the typical sales guy. So for me to do business development and sales, I learned how to do it, but I can do specific things I can't do, and I'm not patient enough to be a real sales guy. I went on trips where we waited in lobbies, and then the people said, no, we forgot you were coming, and we left without them. I know that sales guys go through a lot of difficult situations because they're not always treated the way with the respect that
they're not, and we're not. I mean, I am absolutely a true salesperson, in terms of like where I'm really fitted into the correct spot because I just shine. But it's not because of that. It's not selling. Somebody said I could sell anything, right? You could sell anything, Alisa, because it's just natural born. But the reality is it's people. Like I just love people. And it's not necessarily about selling them anything. I'm not selling anybody anything on YouTube. I'm not doing that. I'm just showing you how to cook, showing you how to do gardening, showing you how to make stuff, sharing my friends with you. You know what I mean? But like over the years, anything that I picked up, whether it be photography or even Girl Scout cookies. I mean, I sold the most in my troop, 150 boxes at the time, which was a lot back then. But I didn't even try doing it. But it's uncomfortable because I'm married to an introvert. And Brian is not anywhere near interested in being... I had a friend yesterday come who's also an introvert. And I said, come on, let's mic up. Come on, let's mic up. You're my biggest fan. She goes, I am not in front of the camera. I do not do that. I love watching you, but I do not want to. It makes me want to throw up, the thought of me being in front of the camera. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Like, that's just like... The thought of making having me be dealing with an Excel spreadsheet, that makes me want to throw up.
Yes,
it's exactly the same thing. It's just relative to what your personality's like,
That's what I do all day. Basically, I love Excel.
Excel is crazy. I don't know how to do it. I have a couple of clients that through the years, they've been with me forever. They'll send me like an Excel spreadsheet of like the sizes they want for the photos, and then a photo that they've taken where they've cut out all the pieces of paper, and I'm like, I never would have thought to do that. I can just look at the wall and go, I want to put a 16 by 20 there, and I love my 14 here, and I just make it and put a nail in the. I don't even measure the wall. I just put a nail in the wall, and it's done.
Yeah.
And there's the personality on the spectrum is just so huge, you know, with all my friends and with people in general. It's just it's funny though. What makes somebody really happy is the next thing that makes somebody else really sick. But well,
luckily for me, I wasn't also into, you know, closing the door and just working on finding the right molecule for weeks in a lab. That's not me either. So I'm kind of like in
You're
between
in the middle.
somewhere. So that's where my sweet spot is.
So since COVID, so in January, where were you? What were you doing at the beginning of the year?
I decided to quit the job that I had. And I always had in mind, I was hoping that at age 55 I would be able to work on my own. Just do the projects I like, consult, engineer, do what I can do best to help people. And at some point you come to the realization, you can make plans and have dreams or whatever you want. If you really want to do it, you have to do it.
You have to do it.
You can't just wait for something to happen. You have to
go
leap of faith. You have to jump in the water and see if you can swim. So that was the decision I made, not really paying attention to COVID or anything else.
Well, COVID hadn't even happened, right? It was just...
So that was me. I had the job I had allowed me to work from home when I was in Houston most of the time. So I was already used to, I had that set up. I improved it since then a little bit because I you know, based on the experience that I had. But I was used to video conferencing, to conference calls, working at home with my dogs, not let them distract me too much and not too often. Most times it works, sometimes I fail, but the beauty is you're flexible, you can make up for it. And then things happen, right? With COVID, people got laid off, for example. So they call me and say, guess what? Today was my last day. And they're good people. That's something I had trouble understanding, right? And I was in that position, so I know, you know, when I had to reduce staff, it was always difficult, but you had to have a plan. You can't just say, okay, I just go from A to Z and everybody past R goes home or something. I don't know what people do.
What the math,
but apparently, I don't know, some companies didn't value these people as much as I would have. And they may have been reasons, I don't know. I was just surprised at some of the people that were let go. So I actually inspired some of them to do what I did, just register a company, a consulting company, and try to get work on their own. And we are working together in that we pursue work, and the gentleman agreement is if I get work, I get my friends involved. If they get work, they get me involved. So we help each other. Some areas it got a little more formal with signing an agreement.
I know I'm going to be looking for you. All of my people, everybody that's close to me, anybody that comes to me, anybody that, because I grew the network. I invested in growing the network, and especially through LinkedIn, which is how we became friends. And you know, I've got a gazillion mommies and babies and families. I photographed all their lives. You know, that's what I've been doing for 22 years. And some of them have me, you know, plan their vacations, and they're here to see me for Christmas. I mean, trees are going up today. Final touches on all that for the studio, which normally is in July, but because of COVID, I've pushed it back a little bit. But I actually have Christmas cards with a tree for Saturday. So I have to get the final touches on the Christmas trees. Pumpkins are out. You know, all when you came in and saw me working on all that too. But to build the network in a way that then what I can do is share what I have, which is maybe it is, you know, more foofy. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm an artist, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a salesperson, I'm talented. I'm not saying I'm rooting my own horn, but I am. I mean, I was back in 2007 named the best baby photographer in the whole country with Popular Photography magazine. I've been to India. I've done multiple television appearances with the children's cancer and the breast cancer and given back to the community for years. And here I'm finding myself, okay, what do we do? And I'm like, what skills do I have? I'm 50. What skills do I have if I'm not going to be photographing babies every day, all day? What can I do to help people that need help?
Yep.
Whether it be introduce you to a whole new group of people, whether build the group of people in LinkedIn. People come to me on LinkedIn and they'll be like, even today, I was like, I remember seeing your signature. Well, it's trademarked, Alisa. It's been everywhere forever. And they're like, I remember seeing, now I've put the two together. It's you. You're the photographer that's also the writer. That's also, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. And so I'm hoping that YouTube will kind of pull everything together. But people that had not seen me in years are finding me on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, I was always kind of like this with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is more corporate, more like formal, more men than women. More like resume oriented and job hunting oriented, and I'm over here photographing pregnant naked women and tiny babies, right? So that's not necessarily their thing, but I think that that's pivoted. I think that that's changed, because I'm posting now to LinkedIn just like I do every day to Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and nobody's sending me messages saying, oh, this is inappropriate for this platform. Everybody's kind of trying to help each other. Everybody's trying to, and they know it's like if they find somebody that wants to book a vacation, I need to call Alisa.
Yep.
If I find somebody that wants to have their house photographed or decorated or whatever, I need to call Alisa. If I don't know how to plant a cucumber and something's dying in the garden, I need to call Alisa. Or like, oh my God, somebody just gave me a whole bunch of sweet potatoes. What do I do? Call Alisa.
Right.
She'll have a recipe for that, you know. So I think that it's just a continuation of, like you said, with the gentleman's agreement and with all of our friends. It's like, if you know what you're looking for and you can find it for them, help them.
Yep.
Because it all comes back. I mean, it's no coincidence that you walked into that plant when you were in an early, teenager going off to college and got inspired to do something with trash. It's a God thing. It's no different than me photographing Victoria Ann headed to law school, and it makes it to the cover of a magazine. And then I'm never in law school. I'm photographing babies for the rest of my life. It's a God thing. You're meant in your heart to be able to give back in a way that protects the environment. I see that, and I feel like there's going to be somebody that's going to come along that's going to be like, you know what, I feel the same way, and I've got the money to do it. And then all of that is taken off the plate, because that's the biggest problem, is finding the right people that have the money. Once you've got the money figured out,
not only who have money, but finding the right people for the job is a struggle.
Yeah.
A lot of people go with I don't know if it's convenience or if it's they want a big name or something. They go with what they're used to or whatever their selection criteria is.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people don't get the best results out of what they are trying to achieve, because they don't take a risk in finding the right people. They just go with some safe
Whatever easy.
path, an easy path forward. And I would like to change that a little bit, because I know, as I said, that's one of the things that I do. I understand scope of work. I do understand what the client needs, and then I know the people. And if it's not me, then I'm not taking it just because I need the work. I'll point them to the right guys, because I want them to get the best service. And I can only hope that people repay the favor and do the same when somebody needs a skill set that I can provide, that they would come to me and say,
I feel the very same way. And I feel like, it's almost like I want to put a billboard out there and everybody say, okay, this is when we think about Alisa, this is what we think about. When we think about you, this is what we think about. And then if you don't understand that, and you don't understand that in a way that you want to have the best service and from genuine,
Yep.
then you're not supposed to be part of my team. You're not supposed to be a part of it. If you're not going to be sweet, as we say in the Living the Sweet Life, if you can't be sweet, then we don't need you to be here. Because I don't have time in this old nasty world that we're living in, especially right now, to deal with people that are not sweet and don't have the right intentions. And I want people to be in my circle that I can help, they can help, I can help, they can help. And it's reciprocal, and it's maybe 3 years down the line before I find the right person. But when I know the right person, I know who to call to give to you.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, is networking and helping each other.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
And that is, and you're right. And it is the big number of smaller companies and people that are actually embracing the technologies, the platforms. I mean, the big companies are on there too, but
Right.
But you see, I mean, they have these perfect presentations and all that. I look at it, most of the time I don't read it. It's these little, companies that have a bad quality video out there showing something
They're trying.
that they thought was great, or where they tried to present themselves and all. That's more the area where I see myself also helping and also growing my company, right?
Yeah.
I did mostly work on LinkedIn for now.
That doesn't surprise
So
me.
that would be my first venture out to YouTube.
Yeah. And I'm going to send a link to you guys, and below I'll have a link to his information as well, so that you guys can connect, because that's really what it's all about. That's what all this has been about. It's sort of evolved. It's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can show you how to cook. I can show you how to garden. I can show you how to make stuff. What am I going to do? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a coffee talk with my cat. And one of my friends goes, no, you're not. You're doing a Martini Talks with your friends. You're not doing coffee talks with William. William's great. We love William. You can do that by yourself with William. We want a Martini Talk because we know you. We want to be able to promote our businesses and share what's going on and help each other and help each other find the people that we need to know who we are to help us all grow and know that we're all genuine and we're all trying to be sweet.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So
Right.
I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you being here, guys. You know what he brought me? He brought me the best gift ever. He brought me a bottle of Tito's vodka, and y'all know I just love it. We're middle of the day today, though, so that's why we're not drinking any martinis, because we both got to go back to work, and I got to go pick up little man from school. If you guys have found any value in this, please do me a favor and like and share and ring that bell so that you're notified next week whenever we do another episode of Martini Talks. We'll see you soon. Take care.